Hello everyone, welcome to the MudRoom, our weekly free Uncommon Sense parenting class. How is everyone doing? Happy October! And to my fellow Canucks, happy early Thanksgiving. I am so excited for Thanksgiving this year. I have so much to be thankful for this year, both personally and professionally. But one of the things that I am most thankful for is that back to school has been relatively uneventful for my parentability members. Like, don't get me wrong, we have a few families who have really had to go to bat for their kids, but pretty much everybody has knocked it out of the park. Like, really advocated for their kids, and in the end, came to an actual understanding with their daycare, their school, their preschool. A few families in particular, I was actually able to be present on the calls with them, and it was really, really cool to see my clients running meetings so confidently and end up with exactly the outcomes that they were hoping for. I'm just so proud of them. This is a big part of why I do what I do. I had so many bad experiences when I was in early intervention with educational teams who just would not listen. Not listen. So the fact that my clients are not only confidently communicating their needs to their education teams, but actively changing their minds is just like an absolute dream come true for me. All right, before we get into our topic today, allow me to introduce myself for those of you who are tuning in for the first time. My name is Alana Robinson, and I'm a parenting coach for parents of toddlers, preschoolers, and kindergartners. I help you understand why your children are misbehaving and how to fix it without yelling, shaming, or timeouts. I'm your host here on the MudRoom. I'm also the host of the Parenting Posse Facebook group, and I'm the creator of the Parentability program where I help you raise well-behaved kids of your own. If you're watching, say hi, let me know how you're doing, how your September was, and while you're here, don't forget to subscribe so that you never miss another class. Okay. So since it's Thanksgiving this weekend here in Canada, I thought it would be a good time to chat about teaching kids about gratitude. A common complaint that I hear from parents is, my kids act so entitled. They don't appreciate what they have. They're demanding. I can't take them anywhere without endless requests for a new toy or food or just something. If this is something that you've thought to yourself or even said out loud, then this episode is for you. The first thing that we need to consider when we have an expectation of our little ones is always where they are in their development. Because there are certain concepts that are just beyond the grasp of children at certain stages of development. In this case, we need to look at where their perspective taking and empathy development is. Children under age 3 are still learning that they and their parents are not one being, and that you don't share thoughts. And to be fair, that's a pretty easy concept to be confused about when your parents always know what's going on. They pretty universally understand you and your requests, and they anticipate your needs. As far as a 2-year-old is concerned, their parents are as close to omniscient as it gets. But between 2.5 and 3, they begin to realize that, oh crap, we don't actually think the same thoughts at the same time. They cannot read my mind. Yeah, they're good at anticipating what I need and they understand me, but they don't actually know what I'm thinking all the time. And this is usually when we start to see separation anxiety hit, because the realization that, oh my God, if we're not the same person, then when they aren't with me, they're out doing things without me, hits. By 3, they have pretty much figured out that they and others have different thoughts and perspectives, but they're still very egocentric, meaning they're self-centered. They don't really care what your perspective is. They're just aware that you have a separate perspective. And the egocentric perspective stage lasts till somewhere between 5 and 6 years old. Again, children are not robots. They don't level up. So it's in that year somewhere that we see that subjective stage of perspective taking develop, where children can understand that others have different thoughts about an event or subject because they actually have different information. And that stage lasts till around age 9. So I'm sure you can see the barrier that that egocentric stage of development creates to gratitude. It's really hard to feel gratitude for something when you have A, never actually been without it, and B, you believe that your thoughts and perspective is the most important one in the world. That you are literally the center of the universe. Of course they're entitled. They literally think that your perspective is inferior to theirs, and that on the whole, you share the same perspective as they do. This isn't to say that kids between 2 and 6 aren't capable of empathy and understanding others' perspectives, but it just doesn't come naturally to them. They have to experience you putting yourself in their shoes, in other words, displaying empathy towards them, for quite a while before they can learn to do it for others. And even once they learn to do it, they won't always be able to do it, and it won't be their default. Another issue is that young children don't understand adult concerns. They have no concept of money, budgets, time crunches, others' emotions, social expectations and conventions, all of this stuff that informs how we conduct ourselves on a daily basis. Heck, even teenagers aren't fully at the stage where they can fully grasp these concepts because they've only ever experienced them secondhand. I can very clearly remember being so frustrated with my parents because all my friends either had a car for their own personal use, or their parents drove them to school, or they lived close enough to walk. Now for context, my high school was almost a 20-minute drive away in optimal conditions. And I was like, why are my parents so selfish? They'd rather I sit on a school bus for 2 hours than take 20 minutes to drive me into school. But now, now that I'm a mom, I understand that my parents had their own life and things to do. Cars aren't cheap and require a lot of maintenance. And while my friends had access to cars, I didn't have to pay for things like university. So if a 16-year-old still can't fully understand that their parents don't have unlimited financial resources, time to dedicate to their priorities, why certain things are considered rude or acceptable, then what makes you think a 2 to 6-year-old who is still extremely egocentric can? They can't. So gratitude, real gratitude, where children feel genuine appreciation for the things they have and are given, is a bit of a stretch for this age group. Now, that doesn't mean that we can't start teaching it through laying the foundations for gratitude, though. The first way that we can do this is by introducing the concepts we're relying on, like how money works, and how others' boundaries work, and how their words make others feel, in a very kind of rote manner. So every day while you're at daycare, mommy and or daddy and or grandma and or grandpa or whatever your personal situation is, we go to work. At work, we help a business with a job that they need done, and in exchange, they give us money. Now, mommy and daddy use this money to pay for our house, our food, our clothes, your toys, etc. If we want more money, we have to work more. Or we have to not pay for something else. And if we buy you a toy, that might mean that mommy can't afford to buy a new pair of shoes that she actually needs. You don't have to get super detailed about this. In fact, keeping it very simple, especially for the really little ones, is best. I often write these things into simple stories so we can review it frequently. But by introducing it as more objective information, you're giving them the details they need to understand why you're saying no to a toy every time you step into Walmart, or why we can't go to McDonald's whenever they demand it, or why it might hurt someone's feelings when they receive a gift and say, "That's ugly." These concepts don't just pop into their heads. They need to be taught intentionally if we want them to learn them before they have that actual first-hand experience with them. The second way to do this is to intentionally spend time reflecting on how others are feeling and their perspective. So I would often watch Paw Patrol or Octonauts with my boys and just pause the show randomly and say, hey, how do you think Tweak is feeling right now? And then, how do you know she's feeling that way? And see what cues they're picking up on. Then I'd share my perspective on it. So when they were little, they'd often say, happy! And when the character was visibly sad. And I'd be like, oh, why do you think that? And often they'd be like, I don't know. And then I could say, okay, well, I think Tweak is sad right now. Her eyes are looking down and she has a tear on her cheek. People don't usually look at the floor and cry when they're happy. And the more that we did it, the better they got at attuning to those cues and understanding what the character might be feeling, which was then easily generalized into real-world scenarios. We can also do this with picture books. Stop on the page, look at the pictures. How do you think that she's feeling right now? Finally, remember how I said that children need that first-hand experience in order to understand these concepts? That means that you have to model gratitude and empathy. You have to give them that experience. When they give you a dandelion, display gratitude. When you receive a gift, model graciously accepting it. When they're upset, model empathizing with them. Show them how to take the concept of looking for cues from a character in a TV or in a book and applying it to them. Your face is all scrunched up and your hands are in tight fists. You look angry. I wonder what upset you. Don't be obnoxious about it, but start intentionally modeling the behavior you want them to emulate. They reference our behavior as the roadmap for how to behave in these situations. And for the love of all that is good on this earth, please stop forcing children to say please and thank you. Okay? It doesn't work. Model it. If you say please and thank you, they will too. If someone gives them something and they don't immediately display gratitude, model it for them. Thank you so much. What a lovely gift. She loves the color pink. But don't force them to. For one, they're just empty words unless they're spontaneous. And two, when we force children to do things they don't understand yet, they develop resistance to it because it feels overwhelming and confusing. So then they just won't do it, and they don't even know why. So on Thanksgiving this year, whether you're celebrating this weekend or in November, I encourage you to focus on giving your children the information they need to understand the abstract concept of gratitude and model your own gratitude. We all have so much to be thankful for, and the more we walk the walk, the faster they'll follow. As always, if you have questions or want to follow up with this, come join us in the Parenting Posse and let's talk about it. Feel free to tag me or our mods. The link for that is in the group description. Have a great week, everyone. Happy Thanksgiving, Canucks, and I'll see you next week for another Uncommon Sense parenting class.